Hey, what's up, guys? Remaster Flex here. Oh my gosh. I just finished watching SmackDown Live a couple of hours ago, but I'm just now being able to do this video. Daniel Bryan is the new WWE champion, and he turned heel. Now, I kind of question as to why they had him win the belt just a couple of days before Survivor Series. I know some people got mixed feelings about it, but I personally didn't necessarily want to see AJ versus Brock again. But at the same token, it should be interesting to see how they're gonna book Daniel versus see the sense and the teasing of Daniel turning heel. You can kind of see it based on what he did last week when he started attacking the Miz and Samoa Joe. And not only that, but then he tossed Shane McMahon and then walked out. So you could just kind of see the tension of him turning heel. And the fact that also when he went against AJ Styles before Crown Jewel, of the way how that turned out when they faced each other on SmackDown Live for the WWE Championship before Crown Jewel. But it was just kind of just unexpected. I mean, it just kind of came out of nowhere. So what I mean to say, like, oh my goodness, I was saying this from the very beginning, and I just don't know why WWE continuously keeps trying to do this. I don't think I always say that we have a babyface versus babyface feud. It never works. Now, sure, there's been times in history where baby faces have faced each other and it went well, but 9 times out of 10, someone's got to be the villain. Someone's got to be the heel. And so the fact that Daniel Bryan turned heel here, I wasn't really too surprised about it. In fact, it should be interesting given that it's been about 5 to 6 years since Daniel Bryan's been a heel. I'm gonna be saying about 6 years because the last time he was actually a heel was when he was the world's heavyweight champion in early 2012. He won the title by cashing in against the Big Show after Mark Henry DDT'd him to a steel chair at TLC that year. He cashed in against the Big Show, and he turned heel in early 2012, and he actually stayed heel for majority of 2012. So Daniel Bryan is no stranger to working as a heel. I think he does just as good as a heel as he does as a face. And honestly, at this point, I think that Daniel Bryan being a heel was kind of needed at this point because I mean the way that his career was heading, the way that things have been going for him since he came back, the fact that some people say that most of his matches have been lackluster at best. I mean, maybe this heel turn was what he needed to kind of reestablish his character, to kind of get his character to the next level. Now, as to what that means for him facing Brock Lesnar this Sunday Survivor Series, I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know what that means. I mean, if anything, they'll probably have Brock Lesnar win, just like last year when they had Brock Lesnar face uh, AJ Styles. And I don't know if I'm the only one who had this vibe. I personally wanted to see Brock versus Daniel at a SummerSlam, but Survivor Series is another big event. So, I mean, it is kind of what it is. Uh, I think it should be interesting, though. This heel turn. Again, I find it funny that now they're deciding for AJ to drop the belt. Now he's been champion for a year. Now we're going to take the belt off of him. It's just crazy to me. All these guys AJ faced, and you gave Samoa Joe all these chances to win the belt from AJ, chance after chance, and it didn't happen. And you had Rusev have that one opportunity to win the belt from him, and it didn't happen. You had Shinsuke win the belt from him, which was a perfect timing because Shinsuke was a heel. It was perfect timing because Shinsuke was a babyface just like AJ, and then he turned heel, and that would have been like the perfect time to give Shinsuke the belt because I personally think that their best match out of the 4 matches they had, and I'm speaking of pay per view. Obviously, they had more matches than that if you add their SmackDown Live matches. But as far as pay per view, it was WrestleMania, then it was Backlash, then it was Saudi Arabia, and I think the last match of their feud was at Money in the Bank. Yeah, it was something like that. So Money in the Bank was like the last of their feud because that was the last man standing match. So with like the four matches they had in their feud, I think their best match was at Backlash. And everybody was thinking that Shinsuke was going to, even I was thinking Shinsuke was going to win the belt at WrestleMania, and it didn't happen. And then to make matters worse, Backlash ended with a double countout. And that just made things even worse because it was a no disqualification match. I think the match was even better than the WrestleMania match, but it ended in a double countout because they both did a low blow to each other. And I'm like, are you serious? So AJ has managed to slide with the WWE Championship for this long, and now they decided of all people to have Daniel Bryan take it. I mean, if you ask me, I think that there's some other guys that were well deserving to have taken the belt from AJ. It's just sad that they always handpick these certain guys to win the belts and be the next champion, just like the whole thing on Raw. The fact that you got Brock Lesnar Universal Champion again when you clearly could have had Braun Strowman beat Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel, but you had to have him have a screwy finish with Baron Corbin hitting him with the title, him getting F5 like 5 times and then lose. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I just don't understand it of why they keep trying to, between these part timers or just these guys that, uh, you know, underutilized or something. Like you don't take all these other guys for granted and you just kind of shove them down to the middle. All these other guys on the roster. It's just sad. But Daniel Bryan is the new WWE champion. And I'm just thinking, like, wow, Daniel Bryan is the new WWE champion. It makes me wonder this time around how long, if they're, I was even surprised they even considered doing this, considering the history that we know with Daniel Bryan, with his neck injuries and just his injuries that he sustained that 2 years in a row put him out of action for the rest of the year. It would have, and it's what eventually led to his retirement in 2016. So the question is is Daniel Bryan healthy enough to actually be WWE champion for quite some time? I mean, because it would be crazy for them to give the title to Daniel Bryan for him to get injured and then give it right back to AJ, similar to what they did with the Universal title. Once Roman came out and announced his leukemia, then they gave the title right back to Brock Lesnar. It just kind of showed you that they have no direction towards the future. To do something like that for a perfect timing for Braun to be the next champion and then to give the title to Brock, give it right back to Brock, just shows that Vince and the creative, they just have no vision of anyone else, like of new talent, no vision of any other person to rise up, and it's just really sad. And so for this one, it was crazy because like it was a good match. AJ and Daniel had a good match. I mean, this is their third match at this point because their first match was actually the night after WrestleMania on SmackDown, and then Crown the night before Crown Jewel was their second one, and this was their third one. So this was a good match. Um, it's just that I kind of knew once the ref fell down that some screwy thing was going to happen. And it's funny because just at the same time of the year last year, I did a video of AJ Styles winning the WWE Championship and now Daniel Bryan's WWE Champion. But it makes me question how healthy is Daniel Bryan this time around with winning this belt as it pertains to him keeping it. And if this heel turn for him is actually going to work at his best, because I think that Daniel needed this change in character. I think he needed this reboosted character because as a babyface, even though he's still super over by a lot of fans, it was just kind of reaching his course. And I mean, most of the matches that he's had since he's been back, it just hasn't been like those matches that are worth a lot of replay value, in my opinion. Not really those type of matches that you want to go back and look at all of them. Uh, since he's been back, and in a way, you could say that it has a lot to do with the feuds he's been in. I mean, the first feud they actually put him in, uh, was with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn with Shane McMahon, and it was a okay match at WrestleMania, but it was just the fact that uh, it was kind of like a handicap match because he got attacked before the match even started, and then Shane McMahon kind of was in the ring for the most part. And then once he tagged in Daniel was in the ring and took all the abuse after that. So it wasn't one of those matches that you would say like, oh, this is like a 5 star. This is like a great match or anything. It was just pretty decent at his finest. Then they had him feud with Big Cass, and me personally, I think their second match was better than the first one. Their first match that they had at Backlash, I think that match just ended too quickly. But the one that they had at Money in the Bank, which was Big Cass' final pay per view before they released him, I think that was probably the better of the two. A lot of people shitted on Big Cass because they just didn't like him once he turned heel and stuff. I mean, they just didn't like Big Cass. They had a lot of heat against him, but I think the second match they had was a lot better than the first one by a long shot. I think that second match was really good. I gotta actually hand it to Big Cass in their second match. Me personally, I think their second match was pretty good. But then that's when you had him, uh, you had him start feuding with the Miz again, and like I said, man, like I said, it's just like uh, it's just crazy to me because at that point, and they had the longest match, one of the longest matches on the SummerSlam card. It was like at that point you just kind of see that it was dragging down for him. He just needed that change in direction. He just needed that change in character because that's one of the problems with when some of these guys come back. They get stale really quickly, and for him, I mean, as time went on, it went from being excited that he's back in the ring because even when he first came back, I did a video. If you guys look back on it back in March when he first announced that he was coming back into the ring, I did a video about it. Made a reaction video about Daniel Bryan coming back, and I was excited. But then once you seen him wrestle and you seen the matches the feuds he was being put in, and the length of time they were making the matches, time after time again, you started to just be like, man, this is kind of getting redundant. This is kind of getting boring to some degree. He's not really energizing us like he was doing his first run. Like this is just not the same Daniel Bryan. So I think this heel turn is kind of worth it. Like I said, it should be interesting. Maybe he might go back to the whole no gimmick because if you guys remember, he was actually chanting no for like a long time. He was chanting no uh, back when he was a heel. Instead of chanting yes, he had like a no shirt, and like the fans would say no, like no, no, no. Instead of him saying yes, he started saying no. Eventually, after a while, I think that was actually after the whole AJ Lee thing when she left him and stuff. Then he left her, but then she left him. It was stupid, but that's when he started chanting like no. But man, I mean, what a match! Again, it was a good match. I think it was a really good match. I was pretty surprised that they decided to literally have him lose the belt the same way that they did with Jinder Mahal. Like they had Jinder Mahal drop the belt right before Survivor Series, and they had AJ Styles do the exact same thing right before Survivor Series, drop the belt. I'm just kind of questioning, what is their idea with this? What is their tactic? Now, would I want to see Daniel Bryan hold the belt for as long as AJ has? No, I would not because at this day and age, I personally don't think no matter how good or talented a superstar is, and don't get me wrong, some title reigns that last that long, you know, are beneficial. Like, but it's like I think after a while, to a certain degree, you just gotta let someone else shine. Especially for someone like AJ Styles, who's not even. like a early bird anymore. He's not a spring chicken anymore. The man is in his early 40s. He's like 41 now. Him and John Cena are the same age. Like you can't be champion for over a year and then expect everybody to still be behind you as champion for that long. I mean, like I said, he's had some great matches since he's been champion. But one of the problems that I've noticed with AJ, and they're probably going to do the same thing with Daniel Bryan, especially now since the pay per views are co branded, is that he never literally, he only main evented about two pay per views the whole time he's been WWE champion. And that was the last pay per view of the year last year, Clash of Champions, when he faced Jinder Mahal again, and then at Fastlane in like the man elimination, the 5 way match for the WWE Championship with him, Baron Corbin, John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, uh, all those guys. I think those are like the only two pay per views he's main evented the whole time that he's been WWE champion, and it's just sad. It's sad, and it's not even just that, but it's also the fact that the whole time he's been WWE champion, most of the time they would either have him open up the show, or in which in most cases the WWE champion, the main champion, is supposed to open up the show, but if they didn't do that, they would just throw him in the middle of the card. But he was rarely in the main event in most cases. Like sometimes they put him in the main event, but then sometimes they wouldn't. And it was a lot more times they didn't put him in the main event than times where they did. So it was kind of like the whole time that AJ was WWE champion, you can kind of say similar to what they did with Jinder Mahal. They almost treated him the same way, kind of like a secondary champion, where the title was more like a US or something type of belt than a WWE belt, because even when he became WWE champion, half the time he wasn't main eventing the SmackDown Lives, and when it came to the pay per views, he only main evented two pay per views, which was the last two SmackDown pay per views that were single branded, and when it became co branded, like he definitely wasn't main eventing, and it's just crazy to me. So that's why I say, like, man, um, that's why I say that, you know, AJ, he's had quite a run. He's had quite a run, and I don't think they're gonna have him win the belt again. Like I said, this should be interesting to see what they do with Daniel. The fact that Daniel's a heel, oh my gosh! I mean, they had to have him do the low blow. They just had to have him do the low blow, just like Shinsuke. And they really killed Shinsuke's character to the point where they're just not doing anything with him ever since he won the belt, his United States title from Jeff Hardy. After that, they've just really not done much of anything with Shinsuke since. And it's just sad where his character is headed. But with Daniel Bryan, it just makes you question, now that they turned him heel, is this a step up or is this a step down? Does this mean that Daniel Bryan is going to get more recognition, is going to get more, uh, you know, get back to his first run? You know, does this mean that he's going to uh, assert himself better? You know, you just think about those type of things. Like, what is this heel turn really going to do for this man? Like I said, I when I seen it, it was just crazy because I kind of knew that Daniel was going to turn. I kind of knew that Daniel was going to be the one they were going to have turn heel, because I don't I don't know what it is with AJ. I guess they just don't feel like he needs to turn heel again. I personally think that when AJ was a heel, that was like his best run when he actually was a heel. Like around that time when he was WWE champion, it was a lot better than this time, because at that time he actually was like main eventing pay per views and stuff like that. and he that time was like way better when he was a heel as WWE champion, but as a babyface WWE champion, they warded him down, and that's like the one thing that they tend to do with a lot of guys when they become babyfaces. Some guys they start to water them down, and the fans start to eventually hate them for that. Now, like I said, of course, Daniel Bryan wasn't like he was getting any boos or anything to the point where they just needed to turn him heel like Bobby Lashley or anything like that. But it's just like because of the direction his character was heading and because of just the stuff that they had him doing, it was kind of like he needed that reboost. It was kind of like he needed that change in character. So the question is he healthy enough to be WWE champion? Was this the right decision? I mean, you know, like I said, there's a hell of an amount of talent on SmackDown Live now. Does that mean all of them should immediately win the belt? No, it does not mean that. In fact, you know, as it pertains to Andrade Cien and people like him, he's a hell of a talent. But do I think he should be WWE champion now? No, because one of the problems that they tend to have, that they've had and they've done in the past, and they've still done it somewhat now, is when you push new guys too fast. Because a lot of times when that happens, it backfires. It doesn't end well. So what they're doing with him right now is a lot better than them just immediately trying to push him to the moon. Because for some guys, that doesn't work out too well. It backfires to do that. Um, I'm not gonna say any names, but it just backfires to do that. So that's why I said it should be interesting with this heel turn here. It just kind of came out of nowhere when it happened, but I did figure he was going to turn heel just because of what he did last week. You just kind of tell that Dad's going to be the heel here. Like I said before, you can't have babyface versus babyface feuds. When are they going to learn? Like, you got to have someone turn heel. I keep saying this. Like, yes, it has happened, but 9 times out of 10, when you have babyface versus babyface feuds, eventually someone turns heel because it just doesn't make sense. Like, no one wants to hear, the crowd doesn't want to hear uh, two guys saying the same thing. Oh, I respect you, or I respect you, and yada yada yada. The type of stuff babyface say, you know, no one wants to hear that. So you got to turn someone heel. You got to turn someone heel in that mix. No matter who it is, you gotta turn someone heel. And I mean, the crowd was chanting for AJ and Daniel Bryan throughout the match. They was like, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, let's go AJ, let's go Bryan, let's go AJ, let's go Bryan. Like, they were chanting for both of the guys throughout the match. Like I said, it was a hell of a match. AJ Nick picked his knee, his leg again, tried to go for the calf crusher. Daniel Bryan actually did not tap out this time and actually won the belt by not only hitting a low blow but then hitting AJ with the running knee, which I found pretty interesting because if you guys remember when AJ had won his first WWE Championship, that's actually what he did. He low blowed Dean Ambrose and then went for the Styles Clash and won the belt. And so it was kind of like a return of the favorite type thing. Like Daniel Bryan went for the low blow and then went for a running knee and won the belt. And uh, he actually put AJ in a yes lock or a no lock or the label lock, whatever you want to call it, a couple of occasions in this match. Uh, so it was, like I said, it was a pretty interesting match. There was a spot where AJ went for the phenomenal forearm like outside of the ring. So it was, and then he went for the 450 splash inside the ring. But I think Daniel Bryan countered it and tried to go for the pin. So they had a pretty good match here. I would say probably just as good or a little down from the last match they had before Crown Jewel. I think that one was a little slightly better, but this one was pretty good as well. They did a decent job with this match, and like I said, I know some people are disappointed because The fact that they had Daniel win the belt and they're gonna have him face Brock Lesnar. I mean, we shall see what happens. Uh, I don't think it's gonna be one of those things where he gets squashed like how Randy Orton got squashed in their match at SummerSlam, where Orton only got like two RKO's in and then he just busted him open and stuff. I don't see that type of thing happening, but we shall see. I mean, because this is a match that people have been wanting to see for quite some time. Now, one thing I don't like about these type of matches, though, when they do this type of stuff last minute, is that it's very little build up. And for this particularly, there's no build up at all. So I could really see where the frustration's coming because there's literally no build up for this match. It just got put together at the last minute. There's nothing to build it for. There's literally no build up. And this whole Survivor Series has had really little build up. And part of the reasoning for that is because of Evolution and Crown Jewel. Those prevented like large build-ups for Survivor Series. This is probably one of the weakest build-ups for Survivor Series in quite some time this year because they were so focused on all the other pay-per-views that Survivor Series had very little build-up. And when it comes to this has like no build-up at all, or no like background behind it at all. So like you get Daniel versus Brock, but like no history. So like I said, it should be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if Brock wins. Obviously, I don't see them having Brock lose. It's probably going to be just like how it was last year. They're going to have Brock beat Daniel just like he beat AJ. I don't see them having uh, Daniel win. Now, some people are saying that the reason AJ dropped the belt is because he's injured or something. I don't know if that's true. Uh, I think sooner or later he was going to drop the belt anyway because there were rumors going around a while ago that he was gonna retire at some point very soon. I don't know if he's still gonna do that, but there were rumors going around that he was at some point. So I wouldn't really be too surprised if that I'm not really so surprised that he dropped the belt because I knew it was gonna eventually happen. Uh, the timing it happened is just kind of weird because it's like, what do you really do with Daniel versus Brock? It should be an interesting match. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's gonna be awful. I'm just gonna say it should be interesting to see how they're gonna book this match. If they're just gonna have Brock be lazy and just go for suplexes the whole match, or if they're actually gonna make this a competitive match. It should be interesting to see what they're actually gonna do with this match. Again, this is actually a match that I think would have actually happened at SummerSlam 2014 if Daniel wasn't injured. He probably would have dropped the belt to Brock at SummerSlam that year, and he probably would have been the one that would have got squashed, except for John Cena. It would have been him that would have been squashed that year. Uh, so we'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll see. But Daniel Bryan's the new WWE champion, folks. I know some people got mixed reactions for it, but like I said, hey, he needed that change in character. He needed that reboost, and hey, that's what happened. So there you go with that. Dan Bryan's new WWE champion. And so that's what I wanted to make this video about. Like I said, guys, because I'm in college and all that in school, it's kind of hard to do videos more frequently and all that, but I still watch, try to keep up with SmackDown Live and Raw as much as possible. So yeah, there we go with that. So sign off, Remaster Flex. Hope you guys like this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys another day. Peace.